Beastars features a harrowing tale about a carnivorous wolf and a female rabbit as they fall in love with each other despite their natural instincts and the norms of society. In addition, through the use of subtext, Beastars highlights pressing social issues that are relevant to the modern culture, such as the tenuous dynamic between men and women, xenophobia and racial biases, the difficulties of being born with multicultural heritage, the difficulties of marrying outside of one's ethnic background, and more. But for this video, you can disregard all of that, because it's time to determine who is the strongest animal via a test of strength. And to do so, we will simulate a situation that occurred in the manga, where Bill and Legosi had a tug of war using only their jaws and neck strength. Of course, for the purposes of this video, we won't be comparing the jaw strength of any of the herbivores, primarily because they've got no gains to speak of. Do you even hit the gym, bro? To conduct this battle, we will be comparing the jaw strength of the various carnivores in Beastars. We will do this via two methods. Method 1, raw bite force, and Method 2, bite force quotient, which is basically a way of eliminating a carnivore's weight and determining who is the pound for pound bite force champion. Of course, I will be using rough numbers based on averages, so these numbers are not the end-all to be-all, but they are close enough to give us a rough idea. So with that said, guys, grab your popcorn, cause we're in for a battle, son! First up on the docket, we got none other than the Grey Wolf himself, Legosi. Legosi's a meek individual who's very shy at school and has a tough time expressing himself. Also, he's a closet pervert, but don't let that detract you from his overall strength, because he sports a bite force of 406 psi, or pounds per square inch, and a bite force quotient of 127.3. which is significantly higher compared to that of a human, which is only about 150 psi, and much more than his friend, Jack, who has a bite force of roughly, I'd say, about 289, give or take. He's sort of a big dog, so, we would think it would be more on the higher end. But are these bite forces the strongest in Beastars? Far from it. Next up on the docket, we got the interspecies animal himself, Melon. Now, Melon is half leopard, half gazelle. We won't be doing like a rough estimation of his powers. Let's just assume for this discussion he's 100% leopard. And that would give him a bite force of about 511 psi. So in terms of Legosi's bite force, Melon is quite a bit stronger. However, his bite force quotient is only 119.8. So pound for pound, Legosi's got a better bite force than Melon. Next up on the docket, we got the doctor from the black market alley, Panda! Also known as Gohan. He's got a bite force of 1,069 psi. Holy shit! But I gotta say, biting all that bamboo every day, that stuff's pretty tough. And if you gotta chew that for 8 hours a day, you better make sure your jaw muscles have got their gains. Otherwise, you're gonna go hungry, son. And he also sports a bite force quotient of 151.4. So not only does he have a high bite force, but per pound, he is packing the heat. But he doesn't have the strongest bite force in Beastars. Next up, we got the Shishigumi lions. Now, of course, depending on the lion that you're speaking about, that's going to vary the number. But based on the data I found, a lion's bite force is about 1,082, which ranks higher than Gohan's. However, their bite force quotient is only 123.8, which is quite a bit lower than Gohan's. So far, Gohan is still the bite force pound for pound champion. Next up on the docket, we got the man, or should I say bear, who, spoiler alert, ended up killing Tem in chapter freaking 1. We got none other than Rizz himself, who sports a bite force of 1,160 psi. Woo, that's a lot of bite force, people. However, though, he only has a bite force quotient of 99.3, which means per pound, he's pretty weak. Actually, the weakest so far that we've discussed. But once again, he is not at the top of the totem pole, because above him is none other than Bill the Bengal Tiger, who sports a bite force of 1211 psi. Now you're probably wondering to yourself, in the manga chapters, when Legosi and Bill were going to have the contest with one another, many of the members of the drama club thought that Legosi had the upper hand, and they didn't even really consider it a battle to speak of. So it's very interesting that Haru Itagaki wrote it that way, where everyone thought that Legosi was going to have this super high bite force. But in fact, it was actually the other way around. Bill would have been a heavy favorite, sporting a bite force that is 3 times stronger than the gray wolf. Now, that being said, I have read some information that if a gray wolf is especially big, which Legosi is, and they're in a life or death situation, their bite force can get as high as 1200 psi, which would make it roughly an even battle between the two. In that regard, Legosi would have a chance. But when this competition happened in the manga, if you remember, Legosi was depriving himself of valuable nutrition, so he was already in a weakened state. So his bite force was probably not even at the 400 level at that point. He was probably more closer to Jack or something. So yeah, it's not all too surprising that Bill won that battle quite easily. Next up on the docket, we got polar bears. And yes, they do have the strongest bite force in Beastars, sporting a number of 1,355 psi. However, they have the lowest bite force quotient of all the animals, only at 92.3. So with all that data that I just gave you guys, that would mean that the bite force champion is the polar bears, but pound for pound, it would be panda bears, which means Gohan would be the pound for pound champion. However, there is one little bit of information I did fail to mention. In Beastars, they have a dinosaur festival. Now you're probably wondering to yourself, well, wait a minute. Obviously, there's no dinosaurs currently living, but if they were, how would their bite force compare to the animals in Beastars? Well, that's a very good question. And if you want to learn more, you can look it up yourself on Wikipedia. Or, you know, maybe I'll just give you the answer. It turns out that Tyrannosaurus Rex had a bite force of, get this, 431,000 psi at the tip of the dinosaur's tooth. That is a lot of bite force, people. And it's a bite force that is so high that some scientists are even wondering how the heck these Tyrannosaurus Rex would bite down with so much force that they wouldn't crack their own skulls in the process. So pretty crazy stuff. But with that said, that's all I got on bite forces for the carnivores and Beastars. And I hope you guys enjoyed this fun little video. I figured if Dragon Ball Z and Hunter x Hunter could have power scales, why can't Beastars? So there you go. And if you like this video, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys on the flip side.